Now, Donald Trump's criminal hush money trial resumes shortly with star witness Michael Cohen set to take the stand. The former US president is accused of falsifying business records to hide payments to the adult film star Stormy Daniels. Mr Trump denies those claims. Just let me show you the outside of the court, where, of course, we have seen that daily appearance by Donald Trump, where he normally comes through the doors and makes a statement to the cameras ahead of the hearing. Let's go live to New York. Our correspondent Neda Torvik, who's been following this whole process in detail for us. Neda, take us through today. It's going to be a very big day.
Absolutely, Ita. This trial, the outcome hinges on Michael Cohen's testimony, and that is why he is the prosecution's star witness. Now, Michael Cohen has already entered the courthouse here behind me. Donald Trump not far behind him, so proceedings will get underway shortly. But I am joined by Mitchell Epner, a white-collar criminal defense attorney and a former federal prosecutor, to kind of break down Michael Cohen's testimony for us. And Mitchell, you know, Michael Cohen is so important because, of course, the 34 charges of falsifying business records relate directly to his reimbursement to Stormy Daniels for the $130,000 hush money payment. So what do prosecutors need to establish in their questioning to prove those charges?
They need to establish that he paid Stormy Daniels. They need to establish that Trump knew that he paid Stormy Daniels. And they need to establish that Trump knew that the payments that went to Michael Cohen were for Michael Cohen's payments to Stormy Daniels, not for legal services.
And I keep trying to kind of express to people that there's no one smoking gun in this case. It really depends on a series of evidence and testimony, all corroborating what Michael Cohen says. What do you think is the strongest piece of corroborating evidence for prosecutors?
So the strongest piece of corroborating evidence are the checks that were paid to him, the recording that was made with regard to McDougal, even though that's
Sorry, just to interrupt, guys in New York. Let me just listen to Donald Trump now speaking at court.
And I think you'll find it very interesting, but I'm sure you've all read it. Leading in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Michigan, Georgia, and Nevada. Nevada, we are leading actually by 12 points, which is generally a Democrat state. I think we're probably leading in New Jersey. We had a rally, over 100,000 people this weekend. A lot of the mainstream media didn't want to say how many people, they didn't want to cover. But in fact, I don't think anybody did. I hear the crowd was not shown by the mainstream media, which is what they tell me, but that's par for the course. A couple of quotes that just came out. Fareed Zakaria, no friend of mine. The Trump trial is politically motivated. I doubt the New York indictment would have been brought against a defendant whose name was not Donald Trump. Mark Levin, great guy, brilliant man. Our judicial system has blown up, it's broken. Andrew McCarthy. Trump should be acquitted in Manhattan, wholly independent of the plethora of constitutional infirmities in the prosecution. It should be thrown out for the most basic of reasons. Bragg cannot prove his case. Got no evidence. And I'm innocent. This is a political witch hunt, and nobody's ever seen anything like it. And I tell you what, the appellate division on the judges should step in, because what this judge is getting away with is disgraceful, including the fact that we have thousands of people, we had 100,000 people in New Jersey. They would like to show their support. It's like an armed camp outside. You can't get one person within 3 blocks of this courthouse. Greg Jarrett, we're not, I mean, you take a look at this statement. We're entering the 4th week, and there's still no evidence whatsoever connecting Trump with any criminal wrongdoing. A crime that's not charged, it's a crime that, in which prosecutors won't even tell the defendant what it is. I have no idea what they're even doing. We have records, and they talk about bookkeeping. The only thing down in the bookkeeping is that we call a legal expense a legal expense. We don't call it a construction expense. We don't say for concrete work. We don't say for electrical work. We pay the lawyer a legal expense. And we have a legal expense is a legal expense. It's marked down in the book, quote, legal expense. It's perfectly marked down. The other side doesn't know how to handle it, but they say, let's indict him anyway, because that's what Biden, this all comes from Biden in the White House, by the way. And they have their top people here. Because when he can't put two sentences together, he's the worst president in the history of our country. Can't speak, can't walk off a helicopter, can't walk off a plane, can't walk off a stage. And the only way they think they can win is if they can do something with Trump. Because we have an incompetent, the worst president in the history of the United States of America. Jonathan Turley, after Bragg closes the prosecution's case, the defense will make a standard motion for dismissal. Mershon, who is so corrupt and so conflicted, like no judge has ever been. And the press doesn't want to write about it, but you know exactly what we're saying. Mershon should grant that motion for dismissal. There's been no showing of a crime. They failed to protect the rights of the defendant from a baseless, politically motivated prosecution. That's Jonathan Turley. All very talented legal experts. But the big thing today seems to be the Times. I'm sure the Times is thrilled, but I respect them for at least letting it come out. And there it is. It's Trump leading by a lot in every state. Every swing state leading by a lot. This trial is rigged. It's dishonest. It's a disgrace to New York. It's a disgrace to the country. I should be out campaigning now instead of sitting in a very cold courthouse all day long. This is a Biden prosecution. It's election interference at a level that nobody in this country has ever seen before. This is for third world countries, not for the USA. Thank you very much.
Mr. Trump, who's with you in the courtroom today?
Why Hannibal Lecter? Do you plan to testify?
Donald Trump making fairly typically inflammatory statements. He is supposed to be subject to a gag order because he's not supposed to be commenting on the court process in such a way, claiming this is a Biden operation and a mistrial and a sort of laying into his political opponent, of course, and saying that he should be out campaigning for the presidential runoff instead of in this court. But he's gone in there with his team, and Neda Tawfik is following this. Neda, I don't know whether you were fully able to hear what Donald Trump was saying. His usual inflammatory statements, really, leading off talking about how he's leading in the polling, according to his data.
Yeah, and that is correct, Gita. We have seen Donald Trump leading in key battleground states, and I think it's interesting that he chose today, of course, when the headlines will be dominated by Michael Cohen's testimony, to speak at length there about his political situation. But also we heard him saying that what he did with Michael Cohen was reimburse him for legitimate legal expenses. So that is the defense's argument. And with me still is Mitchell Epner to kind of go through. And look, we just heard Donald Trump there saying this was all legitimate, but Michael Cohen, again, his credibility is really at issue here. How do prosecutors deal with the fact that he has admitted lying under oath, that he has a conviction in 2018 for violating federal campaign finance charges? How do they get around his history?
So they don't get around it. They have to embrace it. They have to say that he has been somebody who's lied in the past, but he's telling the truth now. And the way you know he's telling the truth now is his testimony is corroborated by contemporaneous documents that he could not have made up.
And you and I were talking earlier about the fact that for them, his past helps them explain to jurors why Donald Trump chose him as a lawyer.
Right. So what I would expect the prosecutors to eventually say is that Michael Cohen may be disgusting to you and me. And Donald Trump didn't need to, he could have hired anybody. But the things that make Michael Cohen so disgusting to you and me are what made him attractive to Donald Trump. He's somebody who was willing to lie, cheat, and steal.
And when we look at cross-examination, the defense, for example, with Stormy Daniels, it was an intense cross-examination. What do you think it'll be with Michael Cohen?
I think it's going to be long. I think it may even be counterproductively long, because Michael Cohen has been going after Donald Trump in very ugly ways. He's been using derogatory nicknames that have conveyed that he thinks Donald Trump is sitting there in an adult diaper.
Well, Geeta, today will certainly be one of the most intense days on the stand, and Michael Cohen could be here for a few days.
OK, Neda, we'll be back with you in a few minutes. Thanks very much indeed. They're live in New York. Donald Trump just gone into court with his son, Eric Trump, and his entourage. We'll be back.